When I started knitting and crocheting, I kind of didn't have that great of an understanding of yarn amounts, yarn types, anything to do with yarn really. I just bought whatever I liked the look of, found a project that I liked the look of, and merged those two together without much thought. That was certainly one way to learn those crafts, but what would happen was that a lot of the time I would end up with small random amounts of yarn that I didn't really know what to do with. A lot of the time I would pick up one skein of 100 grams of acrylic or a 50-gram skein of mohair, and then that's it. I don't know what project to make with that. So for today's video, I wanted to go through patterns and projects that I really like the look of that you can make with only one skein of yarn, whether that's a 50-gram or 100-gram. I've got patterns for both options. I started making a spreadsheet to prepare for this video, and it kind of got out of control very quickly, and I have so many pattern suggestions for each type of yarn. So for lace yarn, fingering yarn, sport yarn, DK yarn, chunky yarn, any type of yarn. For each category, I came up with patterns, whether that's for 50 or 100 grams. It will make sense as we go through this video. So I'm going to share the link to the spreadsheets in the description box so you can go through that yourself. I won't have time in this video to go through every single pattern that I included in that spreadsheet, just because we would literally be here for hours. I think I'm going to just go through a few favorites for some of the yarn categories. Now you can obviously find these patterns yourself by filling out the certain criteria on Ravelry. I thought I would just quickly show you how to do that if you don't already know, just because my list is obviously limited to my personal opinion and things that I like. There's obviously so many more patterns out there. So if you go on advanced search and you scroll all the way down, you can select your weighted yarn. Let's say I have DK yarn, and you can enter your yardage. So you can't enter by weight, but you can enter your meterage, yardage. I usually do meterage. So I can check on the yarn labels, see what the amount of meters I have. Usually for DK yarn, if I have 50-gram, it will be somewhere between 100 and 145 meters. So I'll enter that. And then it will give you a bunch of projects that you can make with that amount of yarns. I'm sure loads of you will already know this. In case you didn't, now you know how. My list is definitely not foolproof because it doesn't obviously specify the amount you can get in the type of yarn. So for one project, you might need 100 grams, but the yarn that you have only comes in 250 grams. So in that case, you would obviously need more than one skein of yarn, but it could be that within that same yarn weight category, you have a different type of yarn that is 100 gram that fits the criteria, and you can then work with that. So just keep that in mind as well. There's always going to be a little bit of like wiggle room depending on the yarn you're working with. The patterns also give multiple yarn options. Not all of those yarn options or alternatives will fit the criteria of only one skein. So I would have included that pattern if one of the yarn options is applicable to either 50 or 100 gram skeins. Just keep that in mind. Not all of the options that the pattern writer is listing will apply to my spreadsheet list. It also only includes adult clothing. I have included some kids sizes, just if those sizes are already listed with the adult project, if that makes sense. There's also a couple dog projects as well because I thought they were really cute. But in general, I just kept it to adult sizes. I just think if you then get into like baby and kids clothing, the options get so much more vast, and my list would have been even bigger than it already is. I just wanted to say that just in case people are wondering why I haven't included. The most obvious answer to the problem of only having one skein of yarn is yes, you can make baby clothes, obviously. I've just not included any patterns for obvious reasons. I've also tried to be as size inclusive as I can. I would have put in brackets sizes you can make with that type of yarn, because sometimes if you go up in size, it just wouldn't apply to the 50 or 100 gram criteria anymore. I'm by no means trying to be size exclusive. It's just that I'm basing it on the 50 or 100 gram skein criteria. And with all of those PSAs out of the way, let's get into my spreadsheets. Now, one thing I love doing is making a spreadsheet. And as you can see, I've categorized them into the types of yarn at the top here. So that goes down into the columns. And then within the yarn weights sections, I've then organized the patterns in into like categories such as bandanas or hats, gloves. And then I've also just added a section where it very clearly states whether it's a knit or a crochet project, just because I know not everyone knits, not everyone crochets. I do both, so for me it would be really easy just to pick any of the patterns from this list. But obviously if you only crochet, then you don't need to go for every single of these projects to find out whether you can actually crochet it. I've also then split it up into 2 sheets, so we have the 0 to 50 grams and 51 to 100 grams here. That's pretty much the organization of this spreadsheet. Okay, exciting. I actually get to finally talk about some of these beautiful patterns. I'm absolutely gutted that I can't mention every single one of these, so this is in no particular order. I think I'm gonna literally just have to click on like 1 or 2 of these patterns, and hopefully we get like a good variety of projects in here. I'm gonna just first of all mention this scarf pattern. It's gonna be in a lot of the weight yarns because this is based on your own gauge swatch and not so much on like a specific yarn amount, so it can apply to pretty much any type of yarn weight as long as you have enough of it. They actually also give some suggested yarn depending on your needle size. So there's a mini, a midi, a mega, and they basically apply to all of the weight yarns, which is incredible. I could make the Sienna bag in the smaller size, which is such a cute little cross-body bag. I think the smaller size is like perfect to put your phone in. Maybe some sunglasses, nice sort of project on the go. I like the use of the cords on the side as well, so obviously that's like an extra accessory you'd have to get. I'm kind of just assuming that you would be fine with doing that. At least you then would have used up your skein of yarn. Now if you have 100 grams of lace yarn, then there's a bunch of hats you could make and also some tops. The pool has lots of great beanies. There is the easy beanie, very straightforward, kind of like a garter stitch, I'm guessing knit flat, and then you create a bit of texture. Obviously great for scrap projects, but if you have like one skein of 100 grams that you just want to get rid of, make a beanie, it's out of the way, you get lots of wear out of that. A top that I thought was so gorgeous is this Maddie top, which you could make in sizes 1 and 2. I am really sorry that a lot of these reference pictures are in stripes, so it's a little bit deceiving. I think this in a solid color would still be absolutely gorgeous. I love the like ruching they've done at the front to give it a bit more shape. That's literally so gorgeous. Moving into fingering or sock yarn, as the title already suggests, you can make a pair of socks. You could make this pair of the everyday socks in sizes 1 to 3, I think, and some of the pictures show them in stripe, which obviously you can achieve with just one skein of yarn, but even with just one you can make a nice plain pair of everyday socks. Mittens and like gloves is also a very good just general project idea for only one skein. The pool has some really gorgeous mitts and just this like ribbed stitch pattern. They kind of go quite long up your sleeve as well, so they'll keep you nice and warm. So many scarf options. I have included the Sophie scarf just because, duh, obviously. There's also some very cute other options. Lots of scarves from my favorite things, knitwear, that just have more of an like interesting stitch pattern. You could also make a tank top in sizes extra small to 2XL, I think. And this one is from Le Pool. It's just a very basic tank top, kind of a looser stitch pattern, so you get a bit of transparency, and then like an I-cord type thing for the straps, which is very cute. I would get so much wear out of this top. Then if you have 100 grams of fingering or sock yarn, so many more socks you can make. I don't think I have to go for any more socks in this, to be honest. You get the gist. But there's also a few very cute bandanas you could make. I really love this Lucia scarf by Cosmaudi. I love the size of it, like it's a bigger bandana and it really comes down a lot more, like you have a lot to knot it with. You can also wear it as a scarf. I'm gonna just move the camera because I'm actually getting a cramp from sitting this way. All right, this is much better. If you have 50 grams of a sport weight yarn, there's some very cute bonnets and balaclavas you could make. Megan Faith Makes has this very cute, very basic, straightforward bunny bonnet, and it just couldn't get more simpler with this bonnet. Very straightforward, cute little tie around your chin. This crochet scarf by Tanya's Crochet was really sweet. It's got like a scalloped edge around it, which is really cute, and it's just a nice take on the Sophie scarf but in crochet. Another crochet project that I love for sport weight yarn is the disco belt. You do need some sequins to make this happen, but I think this is such a fun project to not only get rid of your sport weight yarn, but to just make something completely different, like really really out of the ordinary. I'm gonna plug my own pattern here. I do apologize. If you're looking for the cute little headbands, then my Lola headband crochet pattern is great for that. You literally need just under 50 grams of a sport weight, which is perfect. Lippool has some amazing patterns for this weight category. We've got the paper bag, which to be honest, you could recreate with any type of yarn. It doesn't just have to be a paper type of yarn. You could also make the azure bra in sizes extra small to extra large, which again has this really cute like ruching at the front, or in sizes extra small to small. You can even make this halter neck top, which is crazy to think. It's only 50 grams of yarn, but you can see it's kind of backless. So you save a lot of yarn by not knitting the back. For 100 grams, you of course can also make lots of balaclavas and bonnets. The one that I wanted to point out is the Pixel Hood by Cosmaldi for any crocheters out there. If you have any type of 100 grams of sport yarn laying around, you have to make this hood. It is just so gorgeous. In sizes extra small to extra large, you can even crochet this asymmetrical crop top, which looks really good. Like I love the back design where it's kind of like asymmetrical, and the front looks like it's gonna give you a lot of coverage as well, which is always good to look out for in knit and crochet projects. A very easy and straightforward knit scarf, which still has an interesting stitch pattern. It's this Low Key scarf by Low Key Bald Knit. I love how this almost looks like crochet. I think it's very rare to see it the reverse, when knit looks like crochet and not crochet like knit. So I thought this was very sweet for the autumn coming up if you've got like a pop of color yarn laying around. And moving on to DK weight yarn, which is probably in my case the yarn that I actually have random skeins laying around most of. The Static Mittens by Rose are so fun and interesting. I don't know what they would look like with just one color. I think they'd still look amazing because you obviously still have like the going across lines versus the going up lines. Or you could crochet this Wildflower Bandana by Nastia Crochet, which is so cool. I love how meshy the flowers are. It's just so perfect for summer in like a pastel-y colour. So gorgeous. If you have more of a fluffy DK yarn laying around, kind of like a Drops Melody type yarn, you can make this super fluffy scarf by Megan Faith Makes. It's so gorgeous. Like this in the winter is everything that I need in my life, really. Wearing it as a scarf, wearing it as a bandana, just so adorable, and it just looks like it will keep you super warm. But with 100 grams of DK weight yarn, you can make this crochet tie balaclava, which I think stood out to me because of the blue. I'm a sucker for this like royal blue, which is gorgeous, but the pattern itself looks really great as well. I like how the neck area is quite scrunched through the rib type stitch. I think that will keep you super warm in the winter. I also really like the bucket hat from Diamond Knitwear. This type of yarn works so well for that, but I'm sure with like any sort of fluffy yarn, you can really create quite a full bucket hat. I have a bunch of this type of yarn laying around that I never knew what to do with, so maybe I will have to make one of these hats this winter. I'm gonna write this down now so I don't forget. I just realized my mic was not turned on this whole video, so instead of disturbing my whole audio quality, I'm gonna pop this one aside. Anyways, moving on for my audio issues, another thing you can make is the micro shorts by Loopy Studios, which I believe you can make for sizes 1 and 2. Any sizes above that, you need a little bit more than 100 grams. For those sizes, literally one skein of 100 gram DK weight yarn will make you a pair of these micro shorts, which I think is just incredible. Then I've noticed the thicker the yarn, the trickier it's gonna get to make one whole project out of just one skein. So moving on to Aran worsted, our project options are already getting a little bit slimmer, but there's still lots of fun things you could do. One of the dog themed things I have to put on there is the Maya sweater. I think it's just the color combo of the pale yellow on the black pug that I am literally obsessed with, but it's such a cute little jumper that I would totally make if I had a dog. So definitely jump on this if you have a tiny little dog to make a jumper for. This Erica clutch seemed really intriguing as well. You'll probably need more material for the lining and a zipper, but for the outer layer of the bag, this kind of meshy crisscross pattern, which again looks a lot more like crochet than it does knit, I thought was so interesting. And kind of the fluffiness of the yarn for this type of clutch is so interesting. We also have a very simple beanie pattern by My Favorite Things Knitwear. It seems very straightforward. It has a lovely rounded shape at the top as well. Folded hem, so it'll keep you nice and warm. And with 100 grams of Aran worsted yarn, you could make so many more hats. Some of the ones that really stood out to me was the Snowy Side Cap by Warm Beyond, which I love so much for the cap design, but also the ear flaps. Like that will really keep you warm in the winter. I also love this grid beanie. I just love anything with a bit of texture, especially if you only have one skein available where you can't create like stripes or interesting color work. A nice textured stitch pattern is always the way to go. You could also make the leftover collar, which is so gorgeous. The examples show it in a stripe. This would also look amazing with just one color if you have like something that really pops. A cute little pattern like this will look good no matter what color you choose for it. Or you could also make this Make It Blue cowl by Radica Radio Knits. I hope I said that correctly. I actually really want to make one of these cowl neck things. I think they're just so handy to throw on if you're wearing something more v-neck, or you're kind of wearing a coat where you don't want to wrap around like a scarf on top and you just want to have something peek out of the collar. I think that always looks really nice as well. Then moving on to bulky weight yarn, slightly less options for 50 grams. We have this gorgeous Berry number 3 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, which looks almost felted, which is like the perfect texture for berry. You don't want it to be too soft. There's also the Early Spring bonnet. I am so obsessed with this. This is another thing that I would really like to make in the winter. This would be just such a cute thing to have. I feel like the amount of times I just wrap my scarf around to try and get that shape, I could literally just have it with a dedicated bonnet piece. If you have 100 grams of bulky weight yarn, you do have a few more options. You could make the Bala bonnet, which is so iconic, so fluffy and big, and it has that typical like tie at the front, which I can never ever get enough of really. For crochet, I found this Caldi beanie, which I think is so cool. Like I love the ability to flap the things up and down to like cover your ears. So interesting. Like I've not really seen anything like that before, and you can then also like tie it at the bottom. It's just such a different take on like a beanie headwear crochet type piece. You could also crochet a pair of socks, which are almost kind of like slippers, which I think are like my favorite socks to knit or crochet when they're just a bit thicker, to wear more like a slipper in the house rather than a sock that you would wear with a shoe. So these slipper socks would be a great option for that. Then for super bulky, unfortunately I couldn't find any patterns that I like the look of for just 50 grams. However, for 100 grams you could make another beret by Josephine Dyring, which is so cool. I like the tighter rim around the head, so it's kind of like the beret sits on top. I love that type of design. It also seems like something that you can whip up super quickly, which we love to see. You could also make Le Pool's tiger beret. Again, it sits a little bit higher, not so much like the folded down ones. And you could also crochet a pair of mittens, which these look proper nice and cozy and comfy. And I'm realizing that I need to also make some more mittens because I love wearing mine, and one pair just simply isn't enough. With that, we're at the end of my list. Obviously there are so many more patterns that I haven't even been able to mention. Generally I would say fingering, sock, sport yarn. You have a lot more options to create bigger pieces, but still any other type of yarn. There are projects out there. Majority of the things are just things like hats and bonnets and socks and mittens. Any kind of small accessory, it just makes sense that you need a lot less yarn for that anyways. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video concept. I hope I was able to help out with some idea development, and yeah, make sure to check out the spreadsheet down below if you want to get the links to any of the patterns. Thank you as always so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next time, and until then, goodbye.